Hey everybody, welcome back to Michael Clarda Arts. Glad to have you in the studio this morning. We of course are going to be doing a warm-up drawing, probably 3 drawings total like we've been doing. If the figure's a more complex figure, then we'll end up doing 2, but I feel like we can get 3 done. So this morning we're going to be kind of dipping back in time to 1958 because I am a huge Looney Tunes fan. I've been doing a lot of Disney characters and cartoons, but this time we're going to be doing some Looney Tunes, and specifically from the feature 1958, the Robin Hood version with Daffy Duck and Porky Pig. So let's get started. Here we are at my standing drawing desk, and for those, let me see here if I can pull up some of the items I've worked on. So yesterday we did DuckTales. Previous to that, I believe we did Finding Nemo. Then, of course, Rescue Rangers. Then previous to that was some Robin Hood action, and we did work on some Pinocchio, whoops, my apologies, some Pinocchio as well. So today, kind of straying away from Disney, gonna work on some stuff from one of my favorite features, and that is Robin Hood Daffy. For those of you who have not seen this in a while, it is comedic gold. I don't think I remember seeing this because they started playing things like this in the 90s at AMC theaters, and they were playing it before the feature. And let me tell you something. There is nothing like a Looney Tunes. They are absurd. They're hilarious. And the difficulties that Daffy Duck, he's probably my favorite. Daffy is my favorite. A lot of people will say Bugs Bunny because he's the consummate, and he is a protagonist, but he really is an antagonist because he's just hilarious. But Daffy, oh my gosh, he's kind of like a villain, but also you kind of feel for the guy because he's constantly getting the wrong end of the stick. And here he is in this particular feature trying to do well, trying to do things to rob from the rich to give to the poor. And Porky Pig acts as kind of like his muse. He's egging him on in some instances. In other instances, you can see that, you know, he just wants harm to become, to befall of Daffy. But man, is it funny. Definitely recommend it if you haven't seen it in a while. It is a riot for sure. I love Looney Tunes. I actually have a collection of Looney Tunes DVDs that I will play quite a bit, from Duck Dodgers to this one right here, which is Robin Hood Daffy, because they are so funny. So definitely, if you get an opportunity, cue these up and prepare to laugh your pants off. It's so funny, and it's almost shocking. Porky Pig, who typically plays the bumbling guy, there's a couple Porky Pigs that I really enjoy. One of them has to do with Sylvester, and they're in a haunted house, and Porky is like the he's the traveling salesman come, and all these mice just, oh my gosh, it's like the house is haunted and Sylvester is freaking out. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. They are really, really, really funny. And I can remember growing up watching these things going, man, these are awesome, not knowing that they were made in the 50s, for crying out loud. And like I had indicated before, they were made for the theater. They weren't made for television. So you had these shorts running basically, after, I believe after the feature, or it might have been before, I don't know. Of course I wasn't there. So, what I'm doing now is I'm trying to work out where stuff goes. These particular characters aren't very hard to draw, but you have to get the proportions correct for them to kind of settle right. Now, these characters, I would say, as opposed to Disney characters, I mean, these were like super squash and stretch. You would see stuff that these characters would do that would have been like, oh my gosh. Especially stuff with Daffy. He was, oh my gosh, with his mouth, get his mouth ripped off all the time. It was a riot. So much fun. And I remember at one point in time, some mothers out in the heartland didn't like how violent these Looney Tunes were. I'm like, I'm not going to go around hitting my friend with a mallet and expect him to live. I think I have a little more common sense than that. But they felt like the Looney Tunes were a little rough. Thing is I understood how dangerous a mallet was, and I'm not going to go around hitting anybody with it. But what I'm basically trying to say is, even though these are some of the funniest things ever created, some people always have something to say about them. Yeah, so just like I've done before, I'm basically creating a anchor point in his head to, his ears really high, wow, that's right here, it kind of comes out, to basically move around, create the image according to the reference. Imagine animating these guys, just so much, and the jokes are timeless. They're so funny. Oh, so much fun. I might have to watch this today. I'm getting all psyched up. Especially this one, the dodge, parry, and the buck and the quarter staff. See, I'm laughing even just thinking about it. That's like buck and a quarter staff. Oh my gosh. So fun. So yeah. Looney Tunes. I don't think anything is as popular as what they were back in the day. They just had comedic gold. Of course, you had the master at the gag, which was Chuck Jones. If you haven't had the opportunity to read his biography, I highly recommend you do it. It is absolutely amazing, and some of the hardships he had to go through to even do what he did. And yeah, I read that back in the day. So this particular version of Porky, he has a large tunic. So the tunic comes around, and then it comes around here, and it's got a large opening right there. And I have to think in terms of weight. Not weight as in I'm waiting for something, but weight and volume. And it comes around here, and then it settles on his chest. When it comes around, and this particular part of the tunic actually acts as the top part of his shoulder, and then it comes down. You have a hood here, right there, and you've got his arms that come down, and his hand. So he's got a hand right here, and he's got another hand right here, and his face is kind of facing forward. Here's his inner part of his shoulder. That comes down, then it kind of coincides with that part of his belly. It comes around like that. His tunic comes down. And there's the part of that. And here's his thumb. Okay. And what I'll do here is I'll kind of start fleshing out the volume and making sure I get that part correct here. And this comes out like that, down like that. Okay. But yeah, so funny. Oh my gosh. So much fun. Here, and then his foot. See the side of it, and then you see the bottom of his shoe. So I have had the opportunity to work on stuff for Warner Brothers, not exclusively, but extensively. I've done a lot of stuff for Warner Brothers in general, mainly the Harry Potter franchise. I've done a lot of stuff for Harry Potter, collectibles, whatnot, but I did get the opportunity to work on some really awesome illustration work for Warner Brothers and Looney Tunes, and that was like a dream come true. How can you not look at that and go, wow, part of my life is now complete? And it was. I'd always wanted to work on Looney Tunes, and lo and behold, the opportunity came down the pipeline, and I was like, because I remember getting the creative brief, and I was like, are you kidding me? I get to work on Looney Tunes? And in the same breath, and in the same project time period, I got the opportunity to work on DC Comics stuff. And I'm like, really? What is this? My birthday? So yeah, kind of at the same time. That was years ago. But like I said, these characters aren't too hard to create. Just got to make sure that you get your ducks in a row. Stop it, Daffy Duck. Ducks in a row. All right, I digress. That was a horrible dad joke. I am so sorry for that. Sometimes they leak out. That ain't the only thing that leaks out of you, buddy. Shuddy. I like to take a swift kick to the cranberries. What are cranberries? What are you talking about? Yeah. So just some of the projects I've been able to work on is just, from my viewpoint, pretty awesome. Okay, so I've got that arm, so let's go ahead and do this. Get a ground plane before I go ahead and put that other arm in. Let's move you up a skosh. So it goes here, and it comes up, it comes around. Okay, so here is his hand. Got that finger. It comes right here. And the other finger goes up, and goes down, like so. Okay, and this comes around. Here's his cuff. And then I talked about wrinkles the other day, and talking about how you have a very good reference for wrinkles. Just look at your finger, and whenever your finger bends, you've got that nice fold right there, and you turn it to the side, and it actually comes out and it bows, and that wrinkle at that point of jointery affects a lot of things around it. So here is his joint area, and this kind of bulges out a little bit. got this comes here. And two, with these characters, there is some simplification that happens. Let's go ahead and do this. But not oversimplification, because you still have to adhere to the rigidity of the character design to make sure it still looks like what you're trying to do. You don't want to squash and stretch him out of oblivion and suddenly he no longer looks like Porky Pig. Like I mentioned, I have done quite a few things for Warner Brothers. One of them being stuff for Looney Tunes, but I have done Harry Potter, as well as whatever else came down the pipeline. I haven't done stuff for Looney Tunes in a while. Okay. Get this curved a little bit more. Comes in. Tie things down a little bit better. We've got that nose area right there. That comes around. Kind of juts out. Comes around. See, I'm checking all of my areas here to make sure it looks okay. Let's go ahead and turn that off and shade this in a little bit. Shade this in a little bit. You never want to forget the projects you work on for obvious reasons, because they can get you more projects. But I'm one of those people that really looks at my situation and just figure how incredibly fortunate I am to get to work on some of the projects I have, just because of the fact that I try so hard to be diversified with what I do. I do specialize. I do some 3D, and that's kind of what I'm working on right now, but that's a season, I'm sure, meaning I always go back to my base, which is drawing, and that is something that I will always do no matter what. So diversification, good, but always understanding that my base is going to be drawing and creating. I did see really good news. The Supreme Court upheld a ruling by lower courts with pertaining to AI and how AI cannot be copyrighted. So, only things created by humans. So, if somebody puts into a prompt and creates a character, and then they try and license that or copyright it, they will not be able to, because it was created by AI. So, that is actually really good news for creatives. How long that stays, I don't know. But obviously, from my standpoint as a creator, I definitely want human stuff and not AI stuff. Not a fan of AI. So this, of course, is Porky Pig as Friar Tuck from Robin Hood Daffy. So let's go ahead and move on to the next character, which will be Daffy Duck. Okay, so my goodness, what a morning. Sorry about that, I touched the camera. Of course, moving on to Daffy Duck. I've kind of found it hard to find a really good reference pose that wasn't too hard. You're like, what are you, weak sauce? No, it's just I haven't drawn this character in a very long time, for one. Second of all, there are complexities involved with these characters, especially this one. And whenever you add things like what I'm fixing to add, there's added complexities involved. And sometimes it's hard for me to have some of the time to be able to do stuff like this. So yeah, I had to add a ground plane. So right now I'm just mapping out composition because I wanted to do him sitting, part of this opening scene where he's singing. There's his arm, comes up, comes out. Yeah. Alright, not bad. Not great, but not bad. Okay. He's got his of ale right there, or whatever that is, I don't know. So let's go ahead and make our anchor point here. We've got a little bit of a composition worked in. Alright. Kind of facing up like this, so I've got to consider that because his bill comes really high. It comes around like that. That comes here, a little bit of distance, and then it comes really high and kind of curves right there. And a little bit of a loop under, kind of goes to the side, out like that, round, and over. And this eyeballs. Yeah, this one's whew, a little challenging, guys. Got that eye comes up. Alrighty. The thing is these characters, they don't have the white gloves and some of those definitive things like some of the Disney stuff has. That helps differentiate hands and placement and stuff like that, especially when you draw. So it helps you determine where stuff is. I'm just gonna have to wing it. That's okay. I'm the king of wing it. Okay, so this comes here, and then you got this big. Actually, it comes like that. Comes like that. And this comes it's less rounded, more squared off, and it comes down. It's got this big, and again, that squash and stretch that I talked about is in full effect. Oh my gosh. It's like, how? That's why whenever it comes to this stuff, you can really have some fun. Be loosey-goosey. Alright. We got his hat. This line comes up. Up. Like that. Actually comes down further because you got to see part of his head. Here. Here, here, up, up. Every time I do something Robin Hood related, the one song that always seems to pop in my head comes from Monty Python. Brave Sir Robin, he's so brave. I don't know all the words, but just the Brave Sir Robin sticks in my head. It's hilarious. If you haven't watched that in a while, comedic gold. Of course. Funny. They were ahead of their time. Brave Sir Robin, he's brave. Sir Robin. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish his mouth. Jawline comes down. Now, his shoulder's like right there. Okay, I need to reference over here. Remember, we talked about this area right here, being able to see the entire composition and not work in a macro setting. So this arm comes up and in. And here's his elbow. Comes up. Like so. Over. Here, and you got this outfit. Come down here, all the way down. I want to make sure and get that body line correct. He's got a huge hand. Oh my gosh. Basically comes up and then down. Brave Sir Robin. Okay, so that comes a little bit further down here. And kind of cuts through there. Good. Get that oval right there. Watch out for the tangency, Michael. All right, fine. I saw it. Settle down. So now we come and we get this shoulder up, and the other one kind of comes down slightly. Right about here. I'm going to draw his arm and not worry about his outfit just yet. Because it's, it comes to here. Here's his wrist. Comes here. Down. A little bit of wrinklage. Okay, comes up. 1, 2, 3. Size and contrast. Make sure these arms are similar in length. They are. Here's his wrist. Comes here. Okay. And the other one comes up. This is fun. So this line right here can continue up, and that is the top finger. Then I go back, I zoom out. Here is the, I guess this would be called, is this not a mandolin? Is that a mandolin? Guitar. It's not a guitar. Okay, now let's go way out. 1. Again, I talked about back in the day, they were under budget constraints as well as time constraints. So you had decisions that needed to be made with regards to design And the big question was, why do they only have 3 fingers? Because imagine the cost variable in time that it took to draw that extra finger in and animate it over and over and over again. And they're like, it works just as good with 3 fingers as it does with 5. So go with 3. Yeah, that's a conversation that was had. I am 100% sure. Okay. Go ahead and draw that line. Make sure we get it pretty straight. Another animated short that I really liked growing up was the Bugs Bunny one where he's singing with the Hatfields and McCoys. I believe it was the Hatfields and McCoys. Grab your partner, do-si-do. That was just funny. But yeah, Looney Tunes really affected me. For sure. Okay, go ahead and do this. Get this. There's his finger. There's his wrist. Okay. Moving on to his legs. Okay. 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 Down. Okay, do this. Okay, try and get that first foot in. Okay, around. Again, this is the absolute first time I have ever drawn this particular character. Not that that makes a difference, but like I had mentioned before, if you draw something over and over again, obviously you're going to be better at it. Kind of sound like I'm making an excuse. I am! I don't want it to suck! Which that sucks, right? This needs to go down because it goes like that. Once again, wow again. I think it's Bruce Hornsby and Rage song in my head. I don't know if that happens to you when you're drawing. I get random songs pop in. I had Brave Sir Robin for a minute and then that went away. Whoops. That goes in front of his leg. And then you see just a hint of his bottom down there, and then I see this tunic come around like that. Okay. Okay. Okay, the rocks. One of the things I really loved growing up, and I noticed this early on, even before I had any inkling whatsoever to become an artiste, was the backgrounds in these Looney Tunes shows, of course, all hand done back in the day. Probably painted with gouache and opaque watercolor, which is what gouache is, opaque watercolor. And then he's got this twirly-doo that bounces. There's Brace Robin again. Alright, that's enough. That's enough. Okay. Just making some small adjustments here and there. Anyway, the backgrounds were phenomenal. I love background. I'm endeavoring to get better at backgrounds. Of course, I'm endeavoring to get better at everything I do. Backgrounds are just part of the game. I guess. Yeah. But backgrounds like in not only programs like this, but a lot of the Bugs Bunny features had beautiful backgrounds. One of my favorite probably is where Bugs Bunny goes and he goes into a haunted mansion where Dracula is, and he's got this song that he keeps singing over and over again, and it's Abracadabra. Da 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 da, Abracadabra. And then he goes to Hocus Pocus, which is hilarious. And then whenever he is confronted with Dracula, of course, Abracadabra is a magical word. Kind of have a battle of wits. You can't win a battle of wits with Bugs Bunny. What are you, insane? I like whenever Bugs Bunny finally comes to the realization this is no longer a game and people are playing it seriously. Bugs Bunny will look at the camera, break that third wall, and say, "You do realize this means war." Which, as a viewer, you were like, "Oh, it's on like Donkey Kong." And it was. Donkey Kong was on. It was happening. So let's go ahead and shade this in a bit. Because Daffy is black. He's a duck. I think I don't know what kind of duck he is. Is he a mallard? I think he's a mallard. But you can see, just in short order, you can create something really fun, learn a lot, and kind of reminisce. That's what I like to do, is reminisce. That's what I do. Yeah. There we are. Now, of course, this is part of the intro. You're going to see a sign right there that says Robin Hood Wanted. You're going to see his quiver with his bow. I highly recommend that you check this out because it is, oh my gosh, it is so funny. What makes it funny, I think, for me, is the constant laughing from Porky Pig. Porky is laughing pretty much, I would say, 60 to 70% of the entire episode. And he's laughing at the shenanigans that are happening in front of him. Just the silliness that ensues. Oh my goodness gracious me. So silly. Yeah. Okay, let's figure out the last character. Okay, in the final pose, I'm actually going to do an action pose of Daffy, because some of the other... There's only 3 characters in the entire short. You got Porky, you got Daffy, and you've got this rider that... Boom, boom, boom. He's constantly passing through, which is who Robin is trying to rob. Daffy's trying to rob, and ultimately he fails, because Daffy fails at everything. So instead of drawing that character, because I couldn't find a really good reference for it, I'm going to go ahead and draw Daffy in an action pose. Hopefully that will suffice for juice guys. So, yeah. Draw Daffy. Make sure and give him a nice stretch there. And then he's got his arm. Comes down. You got that other arm that comes up. Both of them are... He's ready to give some fisticuffs. A little bit of a ground plane so I can position things correctly. Got this nice curve, this nice arch here. Alright, dynamic pose. Got his eyeballs. Comes here. Again, you got that bill that comes around. It's real long. Tell you what, like I had mentioned before, he is one of my favorite characters. And of course everybody's going to say Bugs Bunny, right? Bugs Bunny's my favorite. If you watch some of the early Daffy Duck and the absolute crazy mayhem that ensues with this character, oh gosh, it is so funny. He is so funny. I can't even put into words. He'll jump all around, woo, 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 and just he'll cause some serious mayhem. I'm not a mayhem creator. Don't think that I'm like, oh, I'm hardcore mayhem. No, I like peace. But as a character, and the fun, and the laughs, I think it's mostly it's the laughs that this character generates, and all the memories I have with him. Oh my gosh, one of the things that you'll notice with this particular pose, his hat embodies the same attitude that he has. His hat gets mad too. It acts as a brow. That is just phenomenal. Phenomenal. Yeah, it does. It acts as a brow. That's a riot. Okay. Comes around. It's more pointed like this. It's here. Oh, nose. Daffy also played a character called the Scarlet Pumpernickel. And that was pretty fun. Actually, he didn't play the Scarlet Pumpernickel. I think Sylvester did. Was it Sylvester that played the Scarlet Pumpernickel? I don't remember. I'm going to have to look that up. I almost made a mistake! How dare you make a mistake? No, it was Sylvester. No. I'm gonna have to actually look that up. I'm embarrassed. It's been so long since I've seen that. It's almost as long since I've seen that since I've seen this. I'm gonna pull my... Actually, I can't. Isn't that something? Back in the day, it was all about DVDs and Blu-rays and all of that. Nowadays, I don't even think you can you find a DVD player for sale? I don't know. That's a question I'm going to have to breach, because I was playing DVDs on my PlayStation. Yeah, here he is. Again, he's a little mad, which is pretty standard for him. Here's that fist. And there's the outer part of his two. We got that last part of his hand, and then it comes around. And then this comes here. Let's go ahead and do this. It goes around like that. Make sure I get that corrected. Okay. What I'm doing now is I'm just trying to get these arms in a place where I can move on. Okay, here, and then it comes in like that, goes like that. And that goes like this, and like this. Okay, comes here. Make sure these two kind of meet up just a bit. So this comes here like this. You got his vest. Down like that. And this comes around, and you got that nice curve of his body right there. Again, this whole curve is there to really accentuate that pose. You got his thumb that comes around, just a little bit of a poke through. And then this comes around here, and you got that one finger. Because he's knuckled in. Go ahead and round that off. He's like, I'm gonna make you. Okay, so now let's go ahead and draw that center line, because I have to find out where the other part of that vest is. Let's go up. And here. Down. Go to his mallard neck. Then comes around like here, and then it kind of curves over the arm. And I got to make sure that arm comes out. Actually, it comes down like that. Again, here. No, we're good. Okay. All right. Here, and it comes around. I think the bottom might be just a bit too. Maybe not. We'll see here. Okay, this comes out. No, we're good. Because it's almost like he's got PJs on. PJs! Back in the day when my daughter was tiny, she was probably the cutest person on the planet. I'm not biased or anything, actually. I remember one day, she was like grasping, and I'm like, what do you want? Pound milk, pound milk. I'm like, what is that? What is pound milk? And then, of course, as you listen and you look and you realize what your children are saying, she was saying chocolate milk. And then later on, I'm like, ready for bed? She's like, pajays, pajays. Of course, that meant PJs. She wanted to put her PJs on. Me being in the art field, I'm all one for themed PJs. She had these PJs that were Tigger. Oh my gosh! She looked like a little tiger. She was so cute. Oh, yeah. She's 26 now. For those of you who have children and don't smell the roses, meaning to slow down and enjoy your family. You have to enjoy your family. Things will happen quickly and you'll look back and go, oh my gosh, where did all the time go? I've got a teenager, he's 18, fixing to be 18, and golly, what's the date today? In 23 days, so 3 weeks. He'll be 18 years old. Seems like yesterday, guys. They talk about how time happens and it goes by so much quicker than what you really anticipate. And I can safely say that's true, especially from my point of view, because I am an observer of life and I have had the opportunity to be with my children. A lot of people don't get that. Her mom and I really decided if we're going to have kids, we're going to be part of their lives. And I know a lot of people can't do that because they're working. They have to buy a house and they have a car payment and all those other things. And we basically said, no, I'll drive a piece of garbage car and I'll fix it. I don't need a new car. We have bought a house, but we saved and saved for that. It took us over 10 years to save for that. And we basically wanted to be part of our children's lives. And it's paid off a lot. We have a great relationship with our children. Are there challenges? Sure. I mean, golly, I'm not being stupid. But if you endeavor to have children, make that decision. Be there. My dad, for all that he was and all that he did, has come to the end of his life. And you can see there are still some regrets. But he has lived a full life. But there was a time period he wasn't there. He was out working. And that's admirable, and there's time for that. But we didn't have to have new cars. We didn't have to have cable TV. All those things cost money. That's your life. That's your life. Money is your life. It's your currency. It's your grease. I used to call it freedom, but it's not. It's a tool. Money is a tool. Just shoring up some of those little items to make sure that I've got the stuff that I need to correct here. Then we'll zoom out. His head maybe a little bit too small. Yep, just a splinter. Too small. Let's go ahead and make that a bit bigger. There we go. Okay. Do some shading real quick. Daffy, of course, is black. Need to make sure and get that connection there. There we go. Yeah. One of us has always been part of our children's lives. And only now, when we're a little bit older, have we been able to afford a few things because we've sacrificed early on for our children. So, to be able to be with our children. See, that's the thing. You can say, I sacrifice and I give my kids everything. Clothes, iPad, and cell phone at 6 years old. But they really only want your time. They want you. And that's what we gave them. And it's been a huge blessing for my wife and I. We love spending time with our kids, and they love spending time with us. And it's so funny. Like if my wife and I will go out on a date, our son he'll text message, "What are you guys doing? You're not going on an adventure without me." And I'm like, dude, we can go on adventures without you. It's okay. He just loves being around us. He loves going out. He loves doing things. Same thing with our daughter. We took our son, just took him to like Marshall's or something. She text messages us, "What are you guys doing?" And now it's funny, my daughter will text message me about dinner. "What are we having for dinner?" And my response is always the same. It is always the same no matter what. We could be doing something amazing. We could be doing something nothing. It doesn't really matter. My response will always be the same. Poop. We're having poop. See, that's funny. See, she asks and she knows she's going to get it. It's going to be the same response. That's just fun. That's family fun. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Go out and watch this. Robin Hood Daffy. It is one of the funniest things you will see all day, if not all week. I highly recommend it. Definitely go out and do something fun today. Maybe that's what you're going to do. And hopefully you enjoyed some of the storytelling as well as drawing. We'll see about tomorrow. Of course, family will always dictate what I do here in the studio first thing. And of course, my dad is ailing. We'll see where he's at in the next couple days. He might be moving on. So, but either way, it's going to be positive. Yeah, good laugh. That's what we're going to do. We're going to laugh today. Have some joy. Have an awesome week, guys, and we'll see you soon. All right? Bye.